All right. So I need to check. So I need to go to the relay gen and see exactly how this is getting tested. So like we go to services, but this is relay async. So we got to authenticate, which is going to have our access rights, auth context rights. It's the auth context. All right, so that's where that is on a TCP call. And on an HTTP call, where is it? It's on authenticate request. Different APIs within it, yeah. Okay, so basically what I need to do here is I need to have this call context also have the rights for the user. And we need to set that. Alright, so that should set it for all the HTTP calls. When it does that, we need to set it for all the TCP calls. So authenticate is going to be called on all those things. So for this guy, we're calling authenticate on here. Well, this is the authenticator. Like, this is the authenticator. It's going to be called by both. This is where the call context is made. There is no other place that this goes. This is caller ID, call info, everything. So we have the rights set. All right, cool. All right. All right, so I have my stat intervals and everything else. I think we also need like stat contexts. So for stat context, I think I'm just gonna have online maybe official, like official stats or something like that. That would be good because we want like things that were reported by our game servers and things that weren't. So it'd be maybe you would have like ranked or unranked or something like that. I think it'll just be like official and let me just do online and then offline for that. Okay, so if we go to our call context, what we want to do is we want another one that's going to be like public boolean user has right, and we want to do an or equals and all that sort of stuff on this. So it's going to be WD service data, get right for name, well, we want like just get right, which doesn't actually exist. So we have to go make that. Well, that's what we got the templating for, so this is service utils. And service container, service data. This isn't generated. Oh, that's the wrong thing. It's in service data. Alright. So what we're going to want is a call to... Yeah, we've got the right ID here, so basically what we're going to want is public... Yeah, we'll do it inside of here, so... And this is a long, that's what it looks like. This will be right.name bit equals, and then let's see if that generates into usable code. Enum 7. Yeah, we forgot a comma. Looks like admin bit worked. And this is going to be service data dot auth rights admin bit. Okay, so basically, let's do our admin check. Alright, so we have report results, and that has a user results report, which is account ID and then a list of stats. Okay. Okay, so if you don't send us any stats, we don't care. We'll just say like, alright, cool, I saved it. I saved the nothing you sent me. Alright, so what we need to do is a user result report is an account ID and then a list of individual stats that needs to go into the stats database. So what we're going to want to do is verify that everything is fine. So basically we're going to do if you actually have the admin bit, if admin, then we're fine. Otherwise, we need to verify everything. So let's see, for stats, user result report. So let's just do some basic sanity checking for everything. It would be nice if we had full checking of every single stat type. Well, maybe we can just do that. God, validate every fucking string. Well, I'll just leave it alone for now. Let's add in some sanity checking. So we want offline only for these guys. And if they do that, we'll do return craft forbidden. And we won't tell them why. Otherwise, what do we got to do now? We have to actually shove all this stat data into the database. I'm getting incredibly hungry. I'm going to need to go start something. So I'll be right back. So I'm trying to think about how this needs to work. So we've got a list of stats. And what we need to do is we need to write all these to the database. So here's the issue. The issue is, for each one of these stats, they could be adjustments. So like I got 5 more victories, right? That versus my high score is this. So how do we write an adjustment? So basically, like we have this on duplicate key update, but we need to on duplicate key add the value to it, not just like an arbitrary 1. So I have to look at my MySQL syntax because it's basically like insert into blah, you know, XYZ on duplicate key update, XYZ dot value equals, new val. So it looks like the only way in MySQL to do this sort of operation is to insert into a temporary table and then join it. Which is kind of crap. So it basically, what? Create temporary table, insert stuff into table, join. Let's see, insert new entries into the original table, increment entries that already exist by new values. So it'd be like an in-db transaction to create a temp table, do this, and drop the temp table. All right, so the question would be, how do we create a temporary table name? Like we could just use a UUID or something like that. God, that sucks. I mean, the other option would be that we can read all the increment data out of the database and craft the increments. I'm trying to think about this. Like, what's even the syntax? Would be like insert into this where, yeah, we're still going to have to do, yeah, we still have to do like this temporary table thing. Alright, so we can actually do create temporary table like table. Alright. Alright, so it's possible, and I'm going to have to do two separate calls. So, alright. So let's figure out all the ones that we actually need. So it's going to be, we're going to have this string builder. Alright, so we're going to have to go through every stat that we've got going on here. And basically, we're going to do, it's going to be a replace into table, and then all of our stuff. So, do we actually have a statsdb thing that already does this? Alright, I guess I should have two arrays, so it'll be like array list of user stat, should be the adjustments. And we'd also have another one of sets. All right, so stats user stat. Oh man, hello Jeff. Thank you for subscribing. You are a valued member, and I don't know why I didn't get a chime, but whatever. Welcome. I'm starting to lose it, but I'm working on database stuff to do user stats, like how many victories you got in the past week or past month, and then being able to compare that to other people and all that. So this big, massive design thing, I'm working on this piece at the moment. It's the first piece, so, and I'm kind of just staring at a wall of work. And there's a lot of stuff. Don't do design maps. There's a lot of stuff to do, and a lot of it has to do with database work, and a lot of how stats are arranged in the database is it's very databasey. Like, I don't know any better way to describe it, but it means basically you have to do all sorts of operations, and you're thinking about, like, all right, if two machines are writing the stats at the same time, and I have to write a SQL query or insert statement that supports every single case of this. Yeah. But I'm getting there slowly. So it's not just UTC timestamps on there, because stats are, like, let's say at the end of every match, you play a match and the game server reports, all right, cool, Jeff NZ now has one more win. So that goes to, so I could, on the game server, I could read the stat from, like, the back end. I could say, how many wins has Jeff got? And it'll come back, it'll be like, Jeff has no wins. And what would then happen is I'd be like, all right, cool. Well, put in the database that he now has one win. And then that would go back and set in there. But if that whole handshake time period of, like, how many wins has he got, and during that same thing, you went and won another game because you're so damn good, you just, like, were able to do that. That other server would call and say, how many wins does Jeff have? And say, he has no wins yet. And so that server would say, well, set it to 1. And then later, you'd come back and be like, why do I only have one win? What happened? And it would say, oh, well, they both reported 1, so I just set 1. And what should have happened is this one server said, oh, yeah, report that Jeff has whatever wins plus 1, and the other game server did the same thing. But the backend database has to do all that too. But it's not just one person reporting stats. It's like all 6 people in the game. So, and there's also a lot of stats. So to actually merge all this data in to one query which actually does all that I'm having to do stuff. So it's like if there's an adjustment, so what I need is like is it like statsdb dot so we need a transactional DB call. Need network atomics? Well, it's basically the database language has to support the expression of basically what I want to do is I want to say like here are 500 stats for these different users. I want you to insert all 500 of these stats into their entries. If there are any duplicates, I want you to take the value and I just want you to add those two numbers together and set it. And so normally it would be like, all right, cool. So insert, my insert stats into user stats where, like in user stats, and then you do like on duplicate key, set, value equals value plus, 5, which is your like thing. So you'd be like insert, account 5 into user stats, and then like on duplicate key of like account 5 on this like account, then just set value plus 5. But that's a single database operation, and that's going to take time. So what we want to do is we want to have a single database operation that has like, all the accounts, and then on all the duplicate keys, we have to do like this set value call. And MySQL does not have a language expression for that. So what we have to do is create a temporary table, insert stuff into the temporary table, then do like a left join from that temporary table into the main table, and on duplicate keys of that, we can actually access the data in the temporary table and do the increment, I believe. So what we're going to need to do here is so what does the simple DB call do? It sets our SQL statement and does almost nothing else. So this one is just going to be get database. Do we actually use the database name here? Yeah, just for profiling information. All right, so this statement is going to be create table. No, it needs to be create temporary table, temp table like And then we're going to need the name of the table for this. So that's going to be this statsdb.get user stats. And that's just going to get user stats. All right. And I think we want to use this. Yeah, we want to use get user stats deck. Okay, so that'll be our temporary call. Hello, segfaultAX. Why not use an append-only log format and do aggregation separately? Always do an insert. Later you can do a select account. Well, I mean, that's a lot more data overall, right? Instead of storing the number 5, you're storing the number 1, 1, 1, 1, and 1. And you'll add them all together later. So I'd rather not, because the stats database is probably going to be the biggest database we got, because there's stats for everything. You know, if a user has 300 different stats, you know, we have account, stat context, stat name, and stat value 300 times in rows in the database, and it's a lot of data after a while. And I mean, to select everything, like, yeah, select into delete. You could. That's a little too clever for my blood. You know, like, it's probably, like, that's more efficient overall to do something like that and always have your systems read it and do the special operations to snag everything out. But I don't think, I don't know. So what do we got for these guys? Let's just stop scoring goals, problem solved. Nah, you're right. And I'm kind of moving slow at the moment. Like, we already have a string builder here. Should be inside of here. So snag these. Well, I might. Well, actually, I'm lying. I will never look at that. But mainly because this is probably the only place in my game where I'm actually doing a whole bunch of stuff. But it's kind of one of those things where you use MySQL, and I know for some of the other databases, like I think Oracle and probably Microsoft has an operation that does this sort of stuff. It's more of MySQL just doesn't always support absolutely everything. So, you gotta work around some of it sometimes. Petting restart. Oh yeah, that'll happen, Jeff. So yeah, I mean, the other thing is I like having like a clean house at all times for some of these things, and kind of one of the things I try to